It'll be one to go this time by. Coming to the green, buddy. Coming to the green. Let's go get him. Go, go, go. Dig, dig, dig. Go, 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 go.
Get your motor running. Head out on the highway.
Here, this time for the third time this season, 44 cars entered here. Can you sort of talk about the that was then, this is now aspect of what you were saying then and what's going on now? And could the 44 cars we see be a function of sponsors getting scared off, or is it all?
Well, I don't think there's any question that the is a function of sponsor involvement. Now, the sponsor involvement has a great deal to do with the economy. You have to make a company has to be 100% committed to motorsports in this kind of economy to be able to spend the money that it takes, which goes back to part of the reason that I believe it's not in our best interest to have 48, 49 teams. If you look at what's going on with employees right now, if we had how many cars do we have at Daytona? 50? Let's make a number up.
3, maybe something.
Okay. So we're having teams shut down. Every time a team shuts down, there's somebody that's unemployed. We put ourselves in a position where, with this change of car count every year, you go, over a 3 or 4 year period, you go from 49 full-time teams to maybe 44 full-time teams. That's a 5-team switch. If you put 60 people on a team, it's 300 people whose jobs are impacted by that. Our sport would be so much more secure, our employees would be so much more secure, our sponsors would be so much more secure if we had 43 teams. If you had 43 teams, we've in the modern era, I'm not sure we've ever been in a position where we didn't have 43 sponsored race cars. I don't remember that. Maybe we have, but I don't remember that. We don't need 45 teams. There's no benefit in having 45 teams. It only creates insecurity for sponsors, for car owners, for crew members. We have I shouldn't say we have no advantage, but we have very few advantages in having 45, 48, 49 teams. We need 43 teams to put on a race. And if we have 43 teams that knew they were going to be in the race, then the sponsor's investment is much more secure. And in a time when the economy is iffy, the sponsors that want to be involved in the sport, they want to know they're going to be in the race. So it doesn't, the philosophy of having 48 cars all vying for 43 spots. I know that's cool and everything, and well, if you're not good enough, you just go home, you don't deserve to be in a race. That has that's not economically sound. So this is the time where you start seeing the negative side of having a bunch of teams. You have the sponsorship is being spread out over more cars. The value of sponsorships, the cost of sponsorships being devalued because they have more choices. The employees are losing opportunities. There's really no advantage in all that, and our sport is less secure.
43 franchise teams is what
I'm not saying the F word, but
43 cars that are assured of being in the field. How can we split?
43 cars assured to be in the field is the best scenario for our sport. We are, professional golf being the exception, we are the only major sport that has to make the investment that we make, and you don't 100% know you're in the field. Now, the top 35 rule is a tremendous step in the right direction. It's way better than it used to be. It ought to be a 43 rule. I don't know how you go about determining who's going to get the car owners and all. I don't know how you do that. I'm a driver, so I get to point at somebody else and say, figure it out. But it's in our best interest to have 43 secure, well-funded teams and sponsors that are secure in what they're doing. That's in our sport's best interest. That's my opinion.
Brett McMillan from PRN. Jeff, this week Kansas said they're going to ask NASCAR for a second date. Would you like to see a second date at Kansas? And if so, what ISC track should lose one?
I haven't heard that, so I have to think just a minute. I don't think it's in our sport's best interest to run more races, and that's not because I don't want to do it. When I'm not racing here, I'm racing with my 7-year-old. So there's nothing else. I'd rather race, but we have to be careful to not have too many races. I think Major League Baseball suffers from that. I think the National Basketball Association suffers from that. We have to have a limited number of races so they mean something. So if you have 36 point paying races, where are we best served serving the fans? Where are the fans best served having us where do we need to be? I'm not intelligent enough to say that we ought to be in Kansas versus being somewhere else. I don't know. I haven't looked at this. I haven't looked at statistics enough to make that comment. But I believe it's in our best interest to be as in many places as possible. And I don't know. In some cases, I don't know where adding a second race somewhere puts us in many places as possible. We'd be better off going somewhere else that we don't go currently. On the surface of it, that's the way I feel about it. But again, I haven't looked at stats, so I hate to say yes or no.
Jeff, Mike Ackelson from WFMJ TV in Youngstown. With the races winding down and Cal Busch already having 8 wins, do you take a gamble over the next few races if you can get that win to get those 10 bonus points? I think you have to look at it. I think it depends on your situation. If you are, if you're second or third in points and you look really good about being locked in, I think that puts you in that position to do that. If you're ninth in points, eighth in points, the gamble to win the race is also, every gamble has a loss, and the loss of that could put you in a position where you don't make the chase. So it's a tough time to gamble for a lot of people, and it's an easy time to gamble for a few. We are, if we could lay down a good race this weekend, then we would be in that position to probably gamble some going into the next 3. But we're not there right now. We're not in the deal. We look good, but we're not in it. We got to first build a little more cushion before we could think like that. That's my opinion. If the gamble has a negative consequence of finishing 12th, then yes. But most gambles in this sport have a negative consequence of finishing 38th, and you can't do that.
Jeff, Brian Nelson.
Last question, right over here.
Brian Nelson, MRN Radio. I want to ask you about being in the backyard of the Big Three here and the struggles of the automotive manufacturers. Do you think there's a danger that the manufacturers sometime in the near future or in the next 5 years might pull away from supporting motorsports like NASCAR? And if so, how would NASCAR move on?
I thought the Big Three was State, Carolina, and Duke. No? I don't. The auto manufacturers are no different than all of our sponsors. They have to look at the bottom line. They have to be able to afford to do this. The manufacturers have played a tremendously positive role for our sport. They've moved the sport forward in a great deal of ways. But it is clear that the manufacturers are struggling economically. So you're going to find out, I think, how committed they are. I can't speak for Ford or Dodge, obviously. I can speak for General Motors in saying that Chevrolet has been extremely committed, even through very tough times of keeping their program moving forward. So, but we're not dumb enough to think that I think there was a time in our country where you looked at the auto manufacturers as an empire that could never go away. And I think today we can't look at it in that fashion, which is sad. I mean, if you think about the how big the American manufacturers are to the economy of America, it's huge. The amount of employment, the things that they do is unbelievable, and it's hard to see them struggling because it should be a source of pride for our country. Is the exports, the things that the American manufacturers are able to do. It should be a sense of pride for our country, and they're struggling really hard. So I don't think you can take that for granted anymore. There was a time that you just, Chevy's going to be involved, Ford's going to be involved, they always have, they always will. But I don't think we can, as committed as Chevrolet is, they still have to be able to write the checks.